Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, "My boss used me for MC 5 years ago and I just figured it out." Story starts now. About 5 years ago I was the office guy for a small lumber mill. My direct supervisor was the general manager, but the owner was also pretty hands-on. The mill wasn't generating as much profit as the owner believed it could. He was probably right, the guy was smart as a whip with 60+ years of experience. One of the things the owner tried to do was hire an outside consultant to try and find ways we could safely increase productivity or cut expenses. The guy had owned and operated his own mill and also had a ludicrous amount of experience. One of the things the consultant had been pushing for was running the mill into overtime. He thought we could increase productivity without incurring more expense than we gained. My boss asked me to run an analysis of how much we would lose if we ran overtime. I did the math and gave him the results. Even in the best case, every minute of overtime would result in a net loss to the company. This report had taken me several hours as I wanted to be sure I gave him the right answer. My boss took it, nodded, and the next day announced we would be running the mill in overtime. 2 weeks later, when I prepared the end-of-month financial statements, it showed a large loss. I was quietly seething, since I felt like I had been asked a pointless question, my time wasted, and my input ignored. But, looking back on it with significantly more experience, I think I know what happened. I think my boss was bothered by the consultant who had come in to tell him how to do his job and then given him bad advice. The owner wouldn't listen to my boss telling him he didn't need a consultant, so he did exactly what the consultant suggested and let the owner judge for himself. As far as my report went, I think he just wanted to be sure it wouldn't cost us too much when he pulled the trigger. Tom, if you're reading this, I'm sorry I was resentful about the whole affair for the past 5 years, my bad. Next one is titled, "Let's Do It Your Way." Seattle, 1990s. I worked for a guy that ran his business out of his pocket and his personal checking account. We were transportation and handled a lot of cash, checks and credit cards. Pay was per hour with tips paid out of those checks and CCs. So, end of month, we'd settle up and, most times, we got cash for our pay. Things changed one month and he paid us with a personal check. Not an issue, he's got bucks, just not cash this time. So, no worries, I headed over to his bank to cash the check, stood in line, handed the check and ID to the teller. She smiled and said I would have to either deposit the check to my account or open an account with them. I explained that I have no wish to open an account and have no personal account due to the recent departure of wife number 2, so I needed it in cash. She declined again, so I asked her, just for clarification, to confirm that funds were available to cover the check. It was simply bank policy that prevented it being cashed. She smiled and said yes. I smiled and asked for a manager. Her smile dimmed and she said that the manager couldn't change policy. I explained that I wasn't asking them to change policy, I was calling the police and I needed a branch banking officer to assist the officer in filing the charges. She said, "This isn't a crime." I said, "I'm not charging the bank, I'm charging your customer that gave me a check that you won't honor. That's fraud." She ran off to get help. I called my boss and told him what was happening and that I was charging him with fraud. He laughed and said keep him posted. Teller returns with a dude in a white shirt. Explain to him, yada yada yada. He restates bank policy. I tell him that I don't bank with them. Their policy cannot be forced on me and I will summon the police and the press and he can explain to his corporate why they are making bad press headlines. Him, how would you like your cash? Me, immediately. Next one is titled, "Sure Thing, Boss." Backstory, I put in a resignation recently. Long story short, the company was not a good cultural fit for me. I met with my former boss to resign since I felt it would be best to do it in person with HR present. When I explained the cultural and consistent failure of the team to communicate despite my offering solutions and pointing out the problems as part of why I was resigning, I think they took it personally. They immediately accused me of blindsiding them, despite my giving 3 weeks notice, and immediately began attacking me for never coming to them for a sit-down meeting. However, the boss is never there, and I have repeatedly mentioned via text and email the issues going on, as well as to the rest of management. There was also an issue with managers repeatedly asking me to perform tasks that I had never been trained for, which could result in someone getting hurt, and violates local laws. I would always go find the next trained person, and I think they viewed that as me being lazy, despite asking for training for months. I don't know how they interpreted that as feeling unsafe and uncomfortable, but that is the phrase they used. They kept saying, "I accept your resignation, but if you feel so unsafe, I don't see why you need to come back for 3 weeks." Throughout the whole meeting, I felt like I was being blamed and attacked for things totally beyond my control. It was like I had a target on my back from day one, and it was all coming out now. Malicious compliance time. There are a couple programs I run. One is our social media page. 2 is our virtual visit program. Many of our clients have only been able to see their families through video calls, which I set up. I wrote the company program. No one added the shared calendar, even after me offering to do it for them, so no one knows what the schedule is. I began the meeting by stating I want to focus on transitioning these programs, however my boss wasn't having it and was even cutting me off. Our families were furious when there was an error with the initial info in the e-news. I did not write this, so imagine how angry they will be when the video program crashes and burns. But clearly boss wasn't willing to listen. So, I'm not going back for the final weeks, and my phone is going straight to voicemail. Did I mention that we are a residential facility, so our money comes from happy families? And we have 7 calls for the remainder of this week. Next one is titled, "Project Lead Kept Undermining Me and Wanted a Non-Engineer to Pick Up My Work." Some years back I worked on this project to build a mobile web app for collecting information from internal people. We had very limited tools and options for hosting, but I pulled some strings and got a slice on a server somewhere, and did all the dev myself. The project lead was weirdly arrogant and super insecure or something, which was odd because it was a volunteer project I was doing on the side because it would look good on a resume. He kept finding weird and needless ways to put down my work the entire, multi-month project. Near the end of the project things got even worse. He claimed either my name is brilliant or maybe it's just easy and I could pick up a programming book over the weekend and do it myself. He pretty much said it out of the blue. I had no clue why, and everyone else in the meeting just kind of sat in silence, not sure what to say. He also had this assistant, subordinate, who was very non-technical, but a super nice guy, always tiptoeing around this dude's massive ego, and was clearly sympathetic to me for putting up with all this BS. Anyways, I finished the project on time, and when we were starting to wrap up, the project lead set up a meeting to hand off the work and future additions to the assistant, because of course everything I had done was so easy it should be a piece of cake when they need to restructure it all in 6 months. After he sent this email, the assistant privately messaged me and basically begged me to ham it up and make it sound impossible since he knew there was no way he could do this crap. So when we got to the meeting, I started going through a very long list of like 25 things they would need to know, do to pick it up, including using TTY software, command line work, server work, etc. About a quarter of the way through, the project lead stopped me and said, "Okay, I think we get it," and I said, "Just 1 minute, I'm almost done, then read off the other 75% of the list anyways." That pretty much shut him up, and his subordinate messaged me immediately thanking me for saving his butt. Whole thing was very satisfying. Next one is titled, "No Pooping at Work." Maybe the title is misleading? I have massive stomach issues. I don't have insurance to get to a doctor that can fix it without destroying me financially, and I'm already financially crap. I have provided a doctor's note to my work stating I need to take extra time to use the bathroom. They insist I clock out to use the bathroom if over 20 minutes. I insist they give me this in a trackable email format, which they refuse. I'm now taking 19 minutes of poop, doing 5 minutes of work to another 19-minute second half of my poop to not clock out. It's not a big malcomp, but I think they are seeking some way to duck me over by not sending me the email trail. That said, I do believe I can just look at them with a blank stare and say, I don't remember any meetings. I want this email trail more than anything, but it's annoying to have my poop monitored and has really soiled my view of the company. Let me know if you guys have better ideas. I'm not necessarily creative, just a dick who wants to poo in peace. Edit. I work part-time opening boxes, forgot to mention this. Next one is titled, He said to stop everyone, so by God I stopped everyone. So I work for unspecified military branch. To be honest, this could happen in any branch. I was stuck working as a gate guard for the day. This is essentially you standing by the gate with a radio to ask the officer in charge (OIC) of the range if the person trying to enter is allowed in, and it's the easiest job on earth. These ranges are so far in the sticks that you can't even find them by accident. If they're here, it's for the range. So some mid-ranking officer pulls up while they're firing on the range and the radio is going nuts with chatter. So no one hears me ask about rank individual dickhead being allowed on range. However, I've seen him already today and I hear his radio in the vehicle echoing everything I say. Obviously this guy belongs here, so I tell him to go in and just check in at the command tent. DH, well, what happens if I'm a spy? I've heard this joke several times by now, so I say, then you're a spy with really poor priorities, sir, which got a laugh out of the last two individuals. Not this one. Cue the butt chewing, as I'm apparently just a lazy idiot who can't do his job and is an embarrassment to the military. As he's ranting, I just sorta stare at him, which prompts, oh, you're eyeballing me? You want to fight me? Fantastic, this guy is just peachy. The radio finally goes quiet long enough to call him in. Obviously he gets through and obviously I'm not too happy. Cue me stopping everybody until I get a response. Every single one of the few dozen range staff members that went to get lunch, many of whom I know, one at a time, can rank name enter. The high-ranking enlisted that is in charge of the entire range staff and has been coming and going all day? Better ask. The guy they sent to get food midday? Had to wait 10 minutes while we wait for the range to calm down again. Got my food though. Then commanding officer, CO, in charge of the entire installation shows up. CO, hey man, I have a radio and they're inspecting me. I'll call it in. Me, sorry sir, gonna have to have you wait until I get a response. Co, I'll try my radio. OIC, gate guard, what the hell is wrong with you? Can you not exercise some goddamn judgment? Me, take it up with rank name, sir, he decided I can't do that. OIC, well that's stupid. Me, I have rank name here for OIC, ducking fascinating. Knock it off. Next one is titled, Lunch is on you. I don't have many stories to post, but this little one springs to mind. I work in a finance office and have become very fast at my job. A new manager starts and it is his first time being a manager, so he's only managing tricks he learnt from books. Not a bad guy, but he just didn't have the experience at the time. There was a list of data that needed updating but could not be done in one hit, so had to be done individually because he knew I could do it. He wanted to see if he could push me to do it faster by splitting the list with him starting from the bottom and me from the top, and he said whoever does the most gets a free lunch paid for by the loser. I burned through my list getting it done in 90 minutes and doing one more, so he could never get more done than me, while he sits there for over 2.5 hours finishing it off, knowing he now had to pay for lunch. He soon learned to just ask me to do it and it would get done. Next one is titled, Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. Last fall, I got a contract for some easy networking configuration. Setting up IPs and VLANs, virtually segregated networks, for different departments to compartmentalize access and resources. Essentially, if you're part of accounting, you only get access to accounting resources. Before this, the client company just had a big mess with all kinds of network issues. Now, to make this job easier, I had a machine I used for jobs like this that had access to all the VLANs I was setting up, so I could test everything from one location. And because of that access, I make damn sure that my machine is locked down as much as I can get it. Well, a bigwig liked the idea of having central access to everything and wanted the same for his personal laptop so he could keep tabs of what's going on with each department. I explained the dangers of doing so and that any device shouldn't have access to all the VLANs without one being an official company device and two having all the necessary security and hardening to keep the device safe. He insisted and even threatened to withhold payment, so I had him send me an email with the request and acknowledging I informed him of potential issues. Access is authorized and I set him up. Not even 2 months later his laptop gets hit with a cryptolocker that was able to pivot off his laptop to the VLANs and do some damage. They had just signed on with a managed service provider, outsourced IT, and were in the MSP onboarding process, so backups weren't exactly the greatest. Ended up costing the company something like $250,000 total in lost production, revenue, and repair costs. I was asked a bunch of questions about everything and forwarded them the emails about his access and my concerns. Last I heard, the owners ripped him a new one but didn't fire him. They also gave the MSP the authorization to nix anything like that in the future. Last one is titled, "Want to be a jerk? You chose the wrong Sparky." 15 years ago, Australia. Government electrical contracting can be all kinds of things. This day it was a little bit fun. Background. We had a job to upgrade the switchboards in an office block. The plan, given to us by government, called for 2 suites of offices to be done at a time, on weekends only. Specifically Saturdays only. Our teams could obviously get more done in a day, and over a whole weekend, but this was the plan. The plan called for removing and replacing the existing switchboards and fitting new ones. For the Sparky's reading, the old boards in this old building had no RCDs, RCBOs, so the apprentices should have some fun helping chase the problem circuits. The plan schedule was communicated in advance to the suites that would be affected. 1 month prior, 1 week prior, and the day before. Important to note that once we started a switchboard, there would be no power in the chosen suites until we finished. Story. This fine Saturday morning it was 7 a.m. on day 1 of the plan. The rest of the crew was due in about 30 minutes with all the gear. The 2 suites we were doing that day belonged to the same government department. Each suite had 5 offices with windows that saw into the central open plan space. About 20 people worked in each suite. So, 7 a.m. I'm drinking my coffee while standing at the switchboard of Suite 1. It's on a wall in the open plan. I can see into the offices. In walk a people from the suite's front doors. They stop dead when they see me. Person, sounding surprised and annoyed, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" I'm thinking, uh-oh, they didn't read the plan. Me, injecting some happy into my voice, "Good morning. Just doing some electrical work here today, have you seen," gets cut off before I can mention the plan. Person, now just annoyed, "I don't have time for this, just get on with it." Person heads into the office labeled manager and turns on the lights, so they are now manager for this story. Pause here for a second. Okay, so as an office worker, if you unexpectedly met an electrician in your office, who says they are doing work, you might have a few questions. Like, is it going to affect me? And, how long will it take? I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, so I go over to their office and try again. Me, excuse me, the work here today is, again, don't get to bring up the plan. Manager, annoyed and dreary sounding now, "Look, can you just do your work and leave me alone?" And here we are. Delicious compliance. I go back to the switchboard, head hanging in shame. I have failed. Not really though, because I've been at this rodeo before. See username. I go around to each office and turn on the lights, because I can hear the chimes of manager's PC turning on. This is purely for effect. I already have the open plan lights on. Back at the switchboard, I put my finger on the circuit breaker for power in the manager's office, waiting until the PC has booted. Flick, power out. Manager's UPS begins its beeping. Choose another breaker, flick, lights in the manager's office go out. Manager, calling out, "Hey, what are you doing?" Flick, lights in the next office go out. After all, it wouldn't be MC if I didn't follow their directive. The race is on, I have a finale planned. How many offices' lights do I get to turn off before it happens? 2 more and then manager are out of their office and standing 2 meters from me, glaring. I put my hand on the big black main switch. Manager, quite vexed, I said, "What are you doing?" Me, straight-faced, looking manager in the eyes, "We're doing the switchboard change-outs, outlined in the plan. You're on all the emails I've seen." I turn the main switch. It makes a satisfying car chunk sound. All the lights, indeed all the power in this suite is now out. All the other UPS join in, underscoring this scene with their nice beeping chorus. From the light coming through the windows, I see realization dawning. The manager turns, heads to their office and gathers their things. And stuff. Dear reader, remember when I said the 2 suites we were doing that day belonged to the same government department? Manager has 2 doors to choose from, the front door or the interconnecting door. I feel like you've guessed which door they chose. At the time I was kinda maybe hoping they would choose that one too. After turning off the UPSs, I head outside to wait for the team. 15 minutes later I'm recounting events to the others. We have a laugh. While they start gathering the gear, I feel 25 minutes is enough time to have logged in, checked emails, reread the plan, and leave. I head to Suite 2. Manager is in an office busily typing away. Oh dear. I head to the switchboard, grab the main switch. Manager is looking at me now. Me, looking manager in the eyes again, call out with actual sincerity, I am so sorry about this. Did you want to save your work first? Manager seems to be saving, so I wait. I'm not a monster. I wait until they have their hand on the front door, then car chunk. Aftermath. None. I mean, what could manager do in the face of the plan? We had a great day. The apprentices got some solid electrical experience. Addendum. 5 weeks later I walked into Suite 9 at 7 a.m. In these 5 weeks, I'd learned that manager had been seconded to another department. Located in Suite 9. Again, I had been kinda maybe hoping. Manager did not disappoint. When I saw them in their office typing away, in full breach of the now 5-week-old the plan, I will here admit that the monster won. Car chunk. Thanks for listening.